July. Let me go across to Dr. Ahilan Kadirgamar. He's with the University of Jaffna. Nuzly Hameem is a protester and activist. Let me start with you, Nuzly, because yesterday when the president fled and he appointed Ranil Wickremesinghe as the interim president, there were protests outside the Prime Minister's office. The protesters were saying, we don't see any difference between the Rajapakshas and Ranil. Both of them have to go. But today, things have been quite peaceful. So have you now accepted that Ranil will be interim president for the duration of 1 month till a new leader is elected?
Absolutely not.
No, I think
what?
Yeah, Nuzly Hameem, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not. We are not in the position to accept him. We aren't accepting. From ever since he has been appointed as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, we have been telling Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe, he does not even have the people's mandate to be in the parliament first place. So he can't be a prime minister first. So if we're going to try to be a president, we won't allow that. But why we gave up the occupancy today, which we occupied yesterday and also on July 9th, to show good faith to the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, because they had been asking us to give it back to the forces, and also most of the public actually had concerns over we are occupying public buildings, and so in order to show the positive note and also to be on the good faith side, we actually gave up all the buildings except the presidential secretariat. But under no circumstances we will accept Ranil Wickremesinghe as a president or as a prime minister.
All right, Dr. Kadirgamar, what then happens next if the parliament is to convene and find a consensus candidate? The problem is this: whoever has the majority in parliament or would have the support of a large number of MPs may not be acceptable to the protesters at the street. And vice versa, whoever may be acceptable to the protesters on the street may not have enough numbers inside parliament. So how are you going to resolve this dilemma?
Well, first of all, the political trajectory in Sri Lanka has been determined by these protests. I think we have to acknowledge that. It's the overwhelming people of this country. By going out on the streets, they have chased away a president, and they have made it very clear to the political class that they have very little confidence in them, and that the people are taking control of the future of the country. And from that perspective, if we look at what has been the bane of Sri Lanka's problems over the last 4 decades, it is the executive presidency. So much power concentrated in one individual. And we saw that. Now, Gotabaya has ran away, and even today, they're still trying to verify whether he has even sent his resignation letter. So, and over the last couple of decades, there's been a lot of discussion. Even most of the candidates claim that they will abolish the executive presidency. And I think this is a moment to move on that. We are seeing the shenanigans of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe trying to usurp power as a president. It was a deal between the Rajapaksas and Ranil Wickremesinghe that put him there as prime minister. And now he's looking for another deal with the Rajapaksas to save them so that their party, the SLPP, would vote for him to become president. I think Sri Lankans are quite clear that we don't want this executive presidency, which was brought about 4 decades ago by another authoritarian regime of J.R. Jayawardena. So this is a moment, first of all, to abolish the executive presidency so that we can go back to our democratic leanings. And that means going back to a Westminster-style parliamentary system. And I think in the days ahead, that's going to come to the fore. If they have to elect a president, let him or her be a symbolic individual without executing any of those executive powers.
Okay, let me also go across to Dayasiri Jayasekara. He's a member of parliament. Thank you very much, Mr. Jayasekara. You've heard from a protester at the Aragalaya. You've heard from an academic as well. The point is very simple. I think no one in Sri Lanka quite accepts this arrangement between the Rajapakshas and Ranil Wickremesinghe. They see both of them as two sides of the same coin. And Mr. Wickremesinghe is still not quit. He's still interim president or acting president. And I think from whatever indication we're getting from the Speaker's office, he intends to continue for the next 30 days until there is a new leader to lead Sri Lanka. That is not acceptable to the folks who are protesting out on the street. How are you going to resolve that?
Yeah, now he has sent a letter to the speaker. In 4 days' time, we had 2 meetings with all the party leaders, and Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe has sent a letter to the speaker saying that with all the consensus with the parties, nominate a prime ministerial candidate to me. This is 2 days before, right? And he has nominated a prime minister candidate, so he can, out of that, quit from the prime minister portfolio and ask this prime minister to form a all-party government.
Okay.
Now, tomorrow morning, we are going to have the party leaders meeting. In that meeting, we are going to suggest one person's name with the support of, I think, the most of the opposition parties and the government people who are independent. And we all are going to give a name.
Who may that person
to
be,
appoint him as the
Mr. Jayasekara?
Prime Minister of this country.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but who may that person be?
Now what? Wait a minute. Now what Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe has to do is to appoint him as the Prime Minister. From that moment, he is no more a Prime Minister and no more an acting President, because when the Prime Minister is being appointed, he is gone, and after that, new Prime Minister is going to be the acting President as well. And in 1 month's time, the new Prime Minister has power, or in the Constitution it says that you can have a election in Parliament and appoint a new President from the majority of the Parliament members who supported this President.
No, so Mr. Jayasekara, can I ask you a question though? Who may this opposition consensus candidate be that you are intending to propose tomorrow to the Speaker?
I can't tell you now because we have there are so many parties we have to consult with.
Okay.
So as a responsible person and responsible MP, I can't tell you now.
Okay.
We have agreed upon one person, and we are still discussing with all the parties who are not representing the this meeting we had in the morning, and we went to meet the JVP.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we are going to meet all the other parties as well, and
all
talk
right.
to them and come to a conclusion.
We'll see how this plays out. You know who this one person may be. We don't know who that one person may be, and whether or not the MPs can agree upon that one name, and most importantly, whether that one name is acceptable to people like Nuzly and others who've been protesting for the last 3 months. I want to thank all our guests for joining us. We wish all Sri Lankans all the very best. I mean, it's a country that we all love. It's a country that deserves a better leadership and a better future, and certainly better economic prospects and a political leadership that is slightly more deserving of that country. Let me now take a quick break. When we come back, right on the other side, there's been flood fury